Hello! This talk is about leading yourself. Why it is important to stay true to yourself and how you can do that. But let's start from the beginning. What does it mean, staying true to yourself? How do you know if you are staying true to yourself or not? Well, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. Yes, I know many of you have recognized the beautiful Eve poem. And I'm sure that many of you recognized similar situations at your work, regardless if you are formal or informal leader, right? Especially now during the COVID-19 times. It's not the first time that someone refers to Eve poem when talking about the leadership, right? But what I was thinking and wondering, can you find the names for all these beautiful leadership traits described in the Eve poem? And even more, can you train these traits? Are you just born with all these traits, as Kipling described, or not? So while I was asking myself that philosophical question, I found this wonderful book on managing yourself by Harvard Business Review. It consists of 10 different articles written by different smart people. And although this book does not refer at all to the Eve poem, I found those secret connections between leadership traits described in Eve poem and names given in this book. And furthermore, this book gives a lot of good advices how you can develop and train these leadership skills. Let's dig into this book. Coming back to the tough COVID-19 times. There still are, unfortunately. Some leaders managed much better difficult times than the others. So how do you know if you can manage tough and challenging times or not? Well, you can if you can watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. Yes, it's the resilience. Resilient leaders manage difficult and tough situations. But how can you know if you are a resilient leader or not? What are the characteristics of a resilient leader? First, you have to have an ability to face down reality, to understand directly what is happening and what is challenging. Also, you have to have ability to improvise, to find a quick workaround and good solutions. But maybe it sounds logical, but it's not enough. There is the third characteristic that is the most important. In fact, it's that engine, it's the drive that gives you energy how to improvise. It's the strong meaning of life, that you really have that strong feeling life is worth living. And that's why you have that drive to continue and persevere and find solutions in very tough and difficult situations. Strong meaning of life is usually developed if you have strongly held core values. And that's the good thing. Do you know why? Because you can work with your core values and develop them, right? Nowadays, many people are talking about organizational core values, company core values, that it's important for each company to have a well-established and developed core values, right? So it's an interesting question how your personal core values correlate with the company's core values. Well, they must be aligned. They must be compatible to each other. And even if they are not the same, they must be able to coexist together. What happens if they cannot coexist together? Then the person, leader, will not perform well and eventually will leave the company. And it's exactly what is happening at some companies. I can guess that many of you had similar experiences, that you worked for some company, you were so passionate, you were so driven, performed excellently, and then something changed, although it wasn't explicitly said, but in fact the core values have changed, although the company didn't change strategy or business operational model. And then you start feeling, oh, it's not my thing, and then eventually you leave. There is another important aspect of the core values and how personal core values and company's core values should be aligned. It's that organizational resilience. Is it more important from a recruitment perspective to recruit people which has that strong meaning of life, ability to be resilient leaders with strongly held core values, or develop well-established and strong core values of the company? Well, it's more important to build a resilient organization, not to focus only on leaders, because there is a risk that they can leave one day, even if they are maybe the most resilient leaders in some other situations or at some other companies. So that's why it's very important to think about organizational core values and organizational resilience. But also from your personal perspective, it is important to work for a company where you feel that your core values are aligned with the company's core values. There is another thing that goes hand in hand with the core values. It's vision and mission. But now I'm not thinking about the company's vision and mission, but about personal vision and mission, which you have if you can dream and not make dreams your master, or if you can think and not make thoughts your aim. I know many of us, business leaders or different type of leaders, we know how to build and work with the company's vision and mission. But how to develop your personal vision and mission? That is the question. How you should start. Start first with defining your core values, your personal beliefs, and focus on your strengths. Why on strengths? Why not on weaknesses? You know, if you focus only on weaknesses, you're going to improve from a non-competent to mediocre person, right? But if you're using the same energy and time and invest in improving your strengths, you're going to be an outstanding leader. So that's why it's important to focus mainly on your strengths. And then you should create a strategy for your life. Oh, very simple. And I know now it feels a little bit scary, like, how should I define the strategy for my life? But do you know what? In fact, it's not so difficult. And I can tell you, if you take a look back at your life, many of us have already started doing that long time ago. Maybe not exactly as children, but already during the teenage period or student time when we were growing and developing ourselves. Because what is in fact strategy for your life? It's these guidelines that leads us and help us to make decisions in life, to help us to decide what is important for us or not important, where we should focus on, what we should do. So clearly defined strategy in your life also help you in avoiding one-offs in your life. You know, as it is important from a business perspective, if you have too many one-offs or tactical solutions, it's going to result in a long-term costs. It's the same thing with your life. So clearly defined strategy and mission of your life will help you in avoiding one-offs, or as Clayton Christensen called them, marginal cost mistake. Here's one example from my personal life. I have always been reading a lot of books. You know, it was an important part of me. I was always the girl with the book. When I have started studying, my studies was very requiring and advanced, and I wanted to perform well. I was a very ambitious student. And a colleague of mine, when he saw a book in my bag that was a novel, he said, "Oh, Mina, do you have time to read?" "Do you know what?" he continued. "I promised myself that I'm going to focus only on studies during the next 5 years. So I'm not going to read anything else that is outside of the studying scope." For me, it was so shocking. It was unacceptable because reading all different types of books was an important part of myself. And I was thinking, although I was very ambitious student and wanted to get the best marks, I said, I cannot give up reading. And I didn't do that. I didn't diverge from my strategy. And do you know what? I managed to be an excellent student and read a lot of nice books. And furthermore, all these readings that were outside of the study scope helped me in my professional career. How? You know, when people are going to recruit you, many companies, they don't analyze or mathematical equations that you can by heart, but they analyze your thinking, way of thinking. So all these nice books that I read contributed that I had something else to stick out of the crowd. So it's really important and a good example how strategy helps you in avoiding one-offs in your life. The same thing happened also when I got kids. You know, I have 3 kids and they're very close in age to each other. So in that period, small kids period, all people told me, "Oh, you're never going to have a time to read." But my strategy, life strategy and vision and important core values and beliefs helped me to reprioritize things. What is important? To be with my kids and allocate time for reading. So I read a lot of books, including Marcel Proust's In Search of a Lost Time, 3,000 of philosophical pages. But my strategy helped me to do that prioritization. So I was much more satisfied person, and it helped me to build my self-esteem. Why is it important? If you ask people about leaders that they really admire and like, many people will say we appreciate humble leaders, right? It's important with that humility perspective. When they have analyzed humble leaders, do you know what they found out? Although there were different types of leaders, all of them had the same thing in common: a strong self-esteem. And do you know what? It's not so strange. If you are very satisfied with yourself, your life, things that you're doing, things that you're investing in, then you're humble to other people. You don't have any reason not to be humble. So that's why strategy and vision, personal vision, is important for your leadership skills. You're going to become more humble leader. And even it will help you with something that is called parallel career, that you are going maybe to fall back during the second half of your life if you are so ambitious and achieved everything that you could have achieved before you turned 50. And you know, many people, ambitious people, did that. They were so focused on professional goals, achieved everything possible during their 40s, and then they were thinking, what should I do next? So if you have defined in a good way your personal vision, it's above your professional goals, and it will help you to find some other parallel career, something new that you can start working on. And it's recommended that you start in finding that, creating paths for parallel career, although even when you are on the peak with your first professional career. Well-defined personal strategy and vision, self-esteem, can lead in another important leadership trait, which you have if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings and not lose the common touch. It's the authenticity. Authentic leaders. Is it good or not? Many of us develop as leaders because we follow our role models, we try to copy them, right? We want to learn a lot of things from the leadership perspective. So is it good to be authentic or not? In order to answer this authenticity challenger question, let me tell you one story about a prince who wanted to prepare himself to be a good ruler. And he believed that a good ruler must be very educated and must keep his personal authenticity. That's why he has started reading a lot of books, all famous scientists, philosophers, authors. But one day he realized all thoughts in his head, they were not his own thoughts. They belonged to all these famous people. He got scared. He lost his personal authenticity. He stopped reading immediately because he wanted to remove all other people's thoughts from his head. But it didn't work well. No, he lost his own thoughts also. His head became empty. The prince started reading again. In fact, he spent all his life oscillating between reading and not reading. He wanted to find a good balance between personal authenticity and external influence. This prince lived in Orhan Pamuk's novel, The Black Book. But his challenge with the authenticity and external influence describes so well our challenge as leaders. Should we be authentic leaders, or should we copy other leaders, follow our role models? If we should be authentic, can we be authentic all the time or not? We will get an answer to this question by introducing the fundamental state of leadership concept. People who did a lot of researches from that leadership and authenticity perspective found out one very interesting thing. When leaders do their best work, when they really are on the top of their performance, they don't copy anyone. They draw their own fundamental values and capabilities operating in a frame of mind that is true to them. They're true to themselves. And what is paradoxally, it's not their normal state of being. So they're entering that fundamental state of leadership only sometimes. But then, when they enter, they perform excellently. How can you know if you are in the fundamental state of leadership or not? There are 4 important questions that you can ask yourself in order to know that. When we are in the fundamental state of leadership, we are results-centered, not comfort-centered. What does it mean? In many cases, you are very comfortable with the things that you are doing. You did that thousands of times before, then you know, oh, I know how to do that, and you just proceed. But if you're results-centered and trying to understand that bigger picture, higher vision, what you really want to achieve, then you will start questioning, is it a good way? Maybe there is a better, innovative way that I can achieve my goals or do things. So you should be results-centered, not only comfort-centered. What is comfortable and easiest for you? The second question, or the thing that we are doing when we are in fundamental state of leadership, is we are internally directed. We don't lose our uniqueness in order to avoid conflicts. And unfortunately, as you know, many leaders are avoiding conflicts all the time. When you feel, oh, it's important meeting, important decision, but maybe I should not present my ideas in that way, it can create a conflict there. Or maybe if you want to drive a change, you are thinking, oh, it will result in a difficult situation, then I have to cope with that. And then you are more convenient and you are avoiding conflicts. So it's important that you are internally directed. The third thing is you should be other-focused, not self-focused. So you should not put your own needs above those of the whole. It's something also that we can lose very easily. You're so focused on your teams, on your department or your business unit, that it's easy to forget the big picture and all things that you are doing, driving initiatives, changes. You should ask yourself, is it best for my teams or from the organizational perspective? And you will see, in many cases, you forgot to think what is the best from the organizational perspective. You are too much self-focused on your teams and your departments. And the fourth thing is you should be externally opened. What does it mean? You should shift focus from controlling environment to learning from it. And I know in the agile world, it's one of the basic pillars, so all agile people will recognize these things easily, that we should not only be focused on results and control environment in order to create results, but we should be focused on creating such environment where all people enjoy and then results will come by themselves. Another important thing from the fundamental state of leadership perspective is that you can train these skills. So it's not just that you enter that state sometimes and go back. So you can start training your brain and preparing if you're doing some change or reorganization or initiatives or preparing for a meeting with important decisions. You should start thinking, if I answer in this way, am I results-oriented or comfort-centered? And so on. So you can go through all those answer questions already before the meeting and before the decision points and force yourself to react much more from that fundamental state of leadership. It's also important that you have such an environment which allows you to enter the fundamental state of leadership and be authentic. That's why I must say I really enjoy working at Paradox Interactive, because my environment here, managers, colleagues, the whole environment, the company, allows me to enter the fundamental state of leadership and stay authentic as much as possible. I saved for the last thing my favorite leadership concept that is called total leadership. When you apply this concept, you are bringing leadership in all domains of your life: work, home, community, and self. And when you're doing that, baking that all together, you enrich yourself enormously. In order to be able to do that, you should be authentic, being real, thinking what is really my core values, my core beliefs that I want to achieve. Also, to keep your integrity and to be creative, to find such concept where you can combine all these domains together. I have one example from my personal life that I called for family conference speaking. I and my husband used to attend a lot of conferences and presented at the conferences before we got children. And then when we got those 3 children mentioned earlier, then we were thinking, how should we do that now? And of course, when you have small children, you don't want to travel a lot without them and leave them at home. On the other side, I really wanted to participate in many conferences in order to learn new things, to present my ideas, to present my company. So we decided to bring our children with us. And in that way, we could attend a lot of conferences, much more that I could have attended if I had to choose between staying at home with children or attending the conferences. Of course, we had to be creative and to find a solution that really works, because when we said that we are going to do that, many people told us, oh, it's impossible to bring small kids at the conferences. No one do that. Of course, maybe not many people are doing that, but it was important for us, both from professional and personal perspective. So we tried to take turns with kids when they were really small, babies. Then we were hiding children under the stage, behind the stage. When they grew up, they wanted to be at the stage together with us and present all together. In that way, we contributed a lot to our work. I learned a lot of new things by attending conferences, which I could apply at my professional work later on. Also, we developed enormously as a family and felt so happy. Our children were all the time with us. We didn't have to choose between job and private life. Also, by presenting our ideas and sharing our knowledge, we contributed a lot to the community, especially Agile Lean European community. So all members of my family developed enormously, both from professional and personal perspective. So after each such conference, we felt like we reached the moon, even further. So it's really good example how by applying that total leadership concept, you can enrich yourself in all possible domains. Another example where I apply that total leadership concept comes from my swimming competitions. Long story short, I was a competitive swimmer as a child, then stopped swimming and competing. And now as a master swimmer, I wanted to compete, get medals, but it was difficult because I couldn't prioritize time and train well. Then I was thinking, maybe business strategies can help me to analyze the market and find the market niche. And I did that successfully. I applied S-curve analysis, competitor analysis on my swimming competitions, created strategy canvas inspired by Blue Ocean strategy, and I managed to get gold medals on Swedish championship in master swimming. Although I wasn't the best one, but I found my market niche. So I really recommend you to try to find that, to apply that total leadership concept on your life. I can guarantee that it will enrich you enormously much. Let's summarize what we talked today about which leadership traits: resilience, personal vision, mission, and core values, authenticity, fundamental state of leadership, total leadership. I'm sure that some of you have already started thinking, do I have some of these traits, maybe all of them, or just several? And do you want to test yourself? I have a quick test where you can test your leadership traits very quickly. The test goes like that. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you will be a great leader, my son. So, good luck with the testing, and thanks for listening.